And I'm gonna make this quicker than usual. I'd planned about an hour and a half, but since the rain's coming, I'll try to cut that down by half. This is, I'll tell you what, sitting right here, and I never lived in this house, but three previous generations did, and I've spent a lot of time sitting on this porch looking out across. It's it just feels like home. I grew up down in the valley down here, about 400 yards. Uh, my great grandpa, who was Robert Fulton Taylor, came to this area after the Civil War. He was born in 1828, so you see, we go quite a ways back. He came to Texas about 1866 with a new wife, because his wife had died while he was in the Army. He had two little boys, and he had a new wife. There was some controversy because he was 38 years old and she was 28. Her family didn't like her marrying this older guy with two kids, but that's one reason they came to Texas. And when he got into this area, the report was that he thought it reminded him of the hills of Georgia, or the area in Georgia where he was raised. And he stopped, rented a little place about a mile south of the Pleasant Grove store, and lived there for a dozen years or so. In 1880, he found out that 320 acres up here was for sale. This place runs back about a half mile down the valley, briefly crossing the road, and he got $600 cash. We've always wondered where the old man got. I say old man, he would have been 52. I guess that was older then than it is now. Got on a mule and rode to Grand Saline. Was gone about a week and bought this land. About 8 or 9 years later, and he made a living, by the way, trapping hogs and killing them and selling the meat and hams and bacon, dried meat, salt pork, whatever. About 1888, his son, my grandpa, Charles Walter Lee Taylor, started to build a house up here. This house was about, what, 400 yards back this way? Little house. And back then, you didn't cook in the house you lived in. There were literally two rooms, according to my dad. A big room, which had 3 or 4 beds in it and a couple of chairs. Then out the back, there was a kitchen. And that's where the family grew up. They had 9 kids. One unfortunately was stillborn. One only lived a little while. The daughter was killed in a tragic accident when she was about 7. But 6 boys grew to adulthood and lived long lives. That would be Lee, Robert, my dad, Raymond, Uncle Fine, and then Herman Orby. A lot of people remember Herman Orby living here, and they did for a long, long time. Went to basketball games and whatever else. This house was built in 1908. And the reason they built it, prior to that, there were no roads. They crossed the bottom in a wagon over here with logs laid in it. Daddy said he remembered if they heard a wagon coming, they'd go out and open the gate for the people because they knew everybody. Well, then they heard that the road was going to be permanent up here and would eventually lead to a mail route. So this was the reason to move up here. They built this house in 1908, possibly on into 1909. I've heard rumors it cost like $600 to build it. So all of the family except my Uncle Aubrey were born down there. Uncle Aubrey was born in this house in 1910 and died in this house in the year 2000. Now this house set, as Anna can tell you, it's set on piles of red rock, and it's set there for over 100 years and slipped or shifted very, very little. It's amazing how secure it was. I am a little ashamed of how my generation let it kind of go down to nothing. And when she got in contact with me and said, my dad's looked at this and we can reclaim it, we can build, we can make something out of it, I kind of laughed at her. I said, there's just not much up there. She had a vision of things that I couldn't see, or maybe your dad did. But I didn't see a house like this. But it's absolutely beautiful. Uh, of the brothers, the oldest two just lived here a few years. Uncle Fine and Herman and my dad and Aubrey lived here till they got married or moved. And Uncle Aubrey never moved. The only time he was ever anywhere else was when he served in World War II. Had a cistern, rainwater back here. There was no electricity. There was no bathroom, running water, nothing like that. But the rainwater was so good and pure. When Mother would can something, she'd come up here and get the water. She said it was just beautiful for canning. And this was home. I remember my grandmother a little bit. She died in 46. I would have been 4. I just remember her being here. I don't remember talking to her or anything. But this was always the place where we came and hunted and fished in the back and fished over far in the back and whatever else. It was just a place you came to. They had a radio before they had electricity. A little generator up in a tree. And the wire ran down and everybody would pull in next to the radio and they'd fiddle with it till they got the sound coming through. And then electricity came about 47 or 48, and that put it all stop to that too. And eventually it began to fall into disrepair. My uncles didn't take very good care of it at times. They were always day laborers. They dug graves, they mowed grass. In fact, they mowed part of the Black Oak Cemetery where we just were. Hard-working, good, honest people, but not people who maintained a fancy house. My uncle would say, Uncle Herman, and I've got a little bit of this, I'm sorry, he'd say, it's going to last as long as I do. And sometimes I have that attitude now. You know, we put a roof on a couple of years ago, but a 30-year roof. And I said, you don't need a 30-year roof. 20-year roof's going to last longer than we last. We got the 30-year one anyway. It's just, as I said, stand here and look out across, and if I could see the valley, it just looks like home and it feels like home. It just feels like a place where I belong. My uncle would sit on the porch, crack pecans, and he had a squirrel come up and eat out of his hand. And I guess that squirrel, other squirrels were watching and other squirrels learned. And after my uncle died, the last uncle, Uncle Aubrey, my son was up here one day, sat down in a chair on the porch, and all of a sudden the squirrel's in front of him. He said, I realized the squirrel wants a pecan, and I don't have a pecan. but thank you for letting me stand up here and reminisce a little bit. It's a very special place. Thank you.